On the night I turned 18, I thought my life was about to begin. My name is Nora, and I had spent all week telling myself this birthday mattered. The backyard was glowing with cheap fairy lights. Cupcakes sat in neat rows with frosting I stayed up late to finish. Then my brother Ethan came home slamming the door so hard the walls shook. His road trip was ruined. The concert was missed. The car broke down. He did not look at me. He did not ask about the party. He pointed outside and said, "If I cannot have fun, then neither can she." My mom froze like a switch flipped. She stared at her phone and started typing. By the time I understood what was happening, my guests were already being told the party was off. No one asked me anything. Hours passed in silence. The lights still glowed. The cupcakes waited. My phone stayed dead. My dad avoided my eyes. My mom said it was better this way and that Ethan was not in a good place. That was the moment something inside me cracked. I did not scream. I did not cry. I carried the cupcakes back to the kitchen and went to my room. I closed the door and started packing. If my life was always going to shrink to fit my brother's mood, then I was done. I realized I did not need to yell to get revenge. All I had to do was stop holding the family together by staying quiet. Halfway through packing, my mom called me downstairs. Her voice was sharp. In the kitchen, they were all waiting. My mom stood with crossed arms. My dad leaned on the counter. Ethan sat at the table like a king who had lost his crown. My mom explained how terrible his day had been. My dad nodded along. I asked why my birthday was cancelled without telling me. She sighed and said I would have many more birthdays. She said she told everyone I was sick. She said I needed to think about the family. I asked if there had ever been a day about me. Ethan laughed and said I was selfish and that this week was not about me. My dad said he just wanted everyone calm. I laughed because it was the only thing I had left. I said I was not in a good place either, and no one answered. Ethan said I was strong and that he carried the real pressure. That sentence from the morning hit me again. If I cannot have fun, then neither can she. I looked at my mom and asked if missing a concert meant I lost my birthday. She said Ethan was sensitive and I was strong. It sounded kind, but it meant I could be ignored. We started yelling. My dad said enough without choosing a side. The room felt smaller with every word. Then the doorbell rang. When my dad opened it, my Aunt Lisa stood there with a suitcase and a smile meant for me. She looked past him at the lights and the cupcakes and my red face. She wished me happy birthday. My mom said I was sick. Lisa looked at me and asked what really happened. No one had ever asked me that. I felt the ground shift under my feet. This night was not just about a cancelled party anymore. It was about to tear everything open. Aunt Lisa rolled her suitcase inside and stopped like she had walked into a crime scene. The banner was half hung, the cupcakes untouched, the lights still glowing for no one. My mom smiled too hard and said she did not know Lisa was coming. Lisa raised an eyebrow and said she had texted twice. She said she wanted to surprise me for my 18th birthday. My mom cut in fast and said I was sick. Fever, chills, party cancelled. Lisa looked at my clothes and the empty counter. She said sick and nodded slowly. My dad started explaining how stressful the week had been and how Ethan's trip fell apart. Lisa lifted her hand and said she did not ask him. She turned to me and asked what really happened. Something in me broke open. I told her everything, how the party was cancelled without asking me, how my mom lied and told everyone I was sick, how Ethan came home angry and said if he could not have fun, then neither could I. I told her it was never just one night. I told her about movie nights on the floor, road trips where my music was a joke, the new laptop Ethan got while I was told I did not need anything fancy because I was strong. My voice shook, but I did not stop. When I finished, the kitchen was silent. My mom rushed in and said I was exaggerating. She said Ethan was under pressure and worked full-time. She said they supported him emotionally and that I had always been independent. Ethan laughed and said we were really doing this over a cancelled party. Lisa did not look at him. She looked at my parents and asked how long they had planned to hide this. Then she said something that made my head spin. She said she had been sending them money every month for 2 years to keep the coffee shop open. She said they told her they wanted to do something special for my 18th birthday. I felt dizzy. I asked if she had been paying for the shop. She said yes. She said my mom called her crying when the shop almost went under, and she believed she was helping a family trying their best. Then her voice hardened. She said she did not agree to fund a system where one kid mattered more than the other. My mom said she did not understand how sensitive Ethan was. Lisa snapped back that being strong did not mean I did not need support. She looked at Ethan and told him he was 22, and missing a concert did not justify cancelling my birthday and lying about it. Ethan said he did not ask her for anything, and that they did what was right for the family. Lisa laughed without humour, and said what was right had always meant keeping Ethan comfortable and hoping I stayed quiet. Then she said she was done. She said she was cutting off the money. No more deposits, no more emergencies. My mom panicked and grabbed her arm. Lisa told her she was not walking away from the kids. She was walking away from being their financial plan. Then she turned to me and everything about her softened. She said she could not erase what happened, but she could give me a way out. She said I could come live with her in Portland. She said I deserved a home where my birthday did not disappear because my brother had a bad week. My parents started talking over each other. My mom accused her of stealing me. My dad begged everyone to calm down. Ethan muttered about betrayal. It all sounded far away. For the first time there was a door open that they did not control. I did not think long. I knew if I waited I would start shrinking the truth until it sounded like nothing. When Lisa said I deserved better, I said, okay, I want to go. The room froze. My mom said I was not going anywhere. My dad said we could talk tomorrow. Lisa said I was 18 and it was my choice. She told me to grab what I needed. She said I did not owe anyone a performance first. Upstairs, my room looked like a life I was about to leave behind. I packed clothes, books, my camera and notebooks. Each thing felt like claiming myself. Downstairs, no one asked what I wanted. When I came down, my mom said if I walked out not to expect them waiting. I said, okay, then do not expect me. To pretend this is normal. My dad did not hug me. Ethan stared at his phone. Lisa guided me out. The door closed behind us like a line being drawn. The drive to Portland felt unreal, like I had stepped out of my body and left everything familiar behind. The road stretched on, and the silence pressed in until I started doubting myself. I wondered if I had overreacted. Lisa did not rush to fill the quiet. After a while she said something simple. She said this was not my fault. No one in my house had ever said that without adding conditions. She did not. She let it stand on its own. Her house was small and warm, with books and plants and a spare room she handed to me without hesitation. She said it was mine for as long as I needed. That first night we cooked burgers and watched whatever I wanted on TV. No one checked if Ethan would approve. It felt strange how normal it was. Over the next days, my life shifted from surviving to planning. We talked about school and college, and jobs that were not tied to my parents or the shop. Every time I doubted myself, Lisa asked who put that voice in my head. My phone did not stay quiet. My mom sent long messages that started with apologies and ended with excuses. She talked about stress and Ethan and how hard parenting was. My dad sent short, polite messages saying they missed me. None of them mentioned lying about me being sick. At first I replied carefully. Then the messages changed. My mom started talking about the coffee shop and how cutting off Lisa had hurt them. She hinted that if I talked to my aunt, maybe things could be fixed. She called me reasonable. I realized reasonable was just another word for useful. One night, after another message asking me to help fix things, I said out loud that they did not miss me. They missed what I could do for them. Lisa told me about the phone call when my mom lost her job and how she framed Eth. And as the future. I saw it clearly then. I was never the center. I was the backup plan. The strong one who was expected to survive anything without support. When my mom video called and walked me through the house like a guilt tour, I finally asked if they wanted me back, or if they wanted Lisa's money back. She hesitated. That pause said everything. I realized the last thing they wanted to control was whether I stayed gone, or came back and took my old place. That was when I decided to stop guessing and make them choose out loud. I sent a message saying I would only consider coming home if Ethan moved out. He was 22 and could live on his own. I hit send before I could soften it. The reply did not come that night or the next day. The silence felt loud at first, then strangely peaceful. While I waited, my life kept growing. Lisa helped me get a part-time job at a little bookstore. I met Jake there. He listened without pushing and asked me for coffee after my shift. We started studying together and walking through the city. For once my world was not spinning around my brother. Then, one grey afternoon outside the library, I felt that old, tight feeling in my chest. Across the street I saw Ethan leaning against a car staring at me. He did not belong there, but he was real. He walked toward me, calling my name like he still had that right. Jake asked if I knew him. I said he was my brother. Ethan said we needed to talk alone. I refused. He said Mom gave him my address and schedule. He said they were worried, and he was there to talk sense into me. I realized they sent him when guilt did not work. I asked what they decided. He said they would not throw their son out to feed my ego. He said they chose their sanity. It hurt even though I expected it. He stepped closer and said I needed to come back and fix what I broke. My heart raced. When he grabbed my wrist, everything blurred. He said I was coming with him. I pulled back and told him to let go. People stared. Jake stepped in and forced his hand off me. He warned him not to touch me again. Ethan looked shocked, then furious. He said I was brainwashed and ungrateful. I told him he crossed a line and that he would never touch me again. He accused me of hurting everyone and playing the victim. For the first time, those words did not crush me. I said I did not break anything. I just stopped covering for him. He said I was jealous and that he was the one who mattered. I looked him in the eye and said, then let it fall apart. I walked away without looking back. His voice faded behind me. That night I showed Lisa the red marks on my wrist. She went still in a way that scared me more than yelling. She said, he grabbed you here. I nodded and said Jake stopped it. She said that did not make it better. She said people who feel entitled do not stop on their own. She wanted to file a report. I imagined police stations and my parents exploding my phone. I said if he shows up again or touches me again, we go to the police. She agreed but told me she was watching closely. 2 days passed with no messages, no calls, no surprise appearances. The quiet felt different this time. Not heavy, not waiting, just calm. Then my mom finally texted. She said they heard Ethan tried to talk to me and that they could not believe I threatened to call the police on my own brother. She said this was not who I was. Then she said they had talked and prayed and would not make Ethan move out. She said asking that was cruel. She said they would not do it. I kept reading even as my chest tightened. She said I only wanted control. She said I manipulated Lisa and turned her against them. She said the shop was barely surviving and they had to borrow money. She said they were humiliated after everything they sacrificed for me. Then she wrote the sentence that stopped my breathing. She said if I stayed away they would focus on the child who still cared about the family. There it was, clear, clean, no guessing. I waited for guilt to crush me. It did not. Instead, something settled inside me like a truth finally landing where it belonged. I typed 3 words. Thank you, goodbye. Then I blocked my mom, my dad, Ethan, and every thread tied to that house. My thumb shook when I confirmed it. Nothing happened. No explosion, just silence. Life did not magically fix itself, but it moved forward. I kept working at the bookstore. I learned the regulars and the way the register stuck. Jake and I grew closer without pressure. We walked through parks and talked about everything and nothing. My old life started to feel far away. Then one afternoon a cousin tagged me in a post. It was a photo of my dad's coffee shop with a new sign. Under new management. The comments told the story. Struggling for months, staff let go, sold to pay bills. Without Lisa and without favors, the future they built everything around collapsed. Later I heard Ethan lost his job at another cafe. His attitude did not change, just his address. He moved in with roommates and complained about unfair life. The pressure, he said, only he carried finally belonged to him alone. I felt a mix of things. Satisfaction, I will not lie, and sadness for what he could have been without being crowned and protected. Meanwhile, my life kept growing. I got accepted to college with a scholarship. Lisa celebrated like it was a victory for both of us. On my 19th birthday, she and my friends surprised me with lopsided cupcakes and cheap decorations. No lies, no cancellations, no moods deciding my worth. Sometimes I still think about that first night, about what could have happened if they chose differently, but I know this now. Love that only exists when you stay quiet is not love. Strength should not mean neglect. Walking away did not make me cruel. It made me honest. I did not destroy my family. I just stopped hiding the cracks. After the shop sold and the noise faded, something strange happened. No one reached out. No secret numbers. No flying monkeys sent to pull me back. The silence stretched and then settled. I realized how much of my life had been spent bracing for impact, waiting for the next mood swing, the next crisis that would suddenly outrank me. Without that wait, my days felt wider. I stopped apologizing for existing. At work, I spoke up. I recommended books without second-guessing myself. Customers listened. Some came back asking for me by name. Jake noticed it too. He said I looked lighter, like I was not carrying something that was never mine to hold. When I told him about my family choosing Ethan again, he did not argue or try to soften it. He said that must have hurt. He said you did not deserve that. It was simple, and it mattered. At night, I sometimes replayed the kitchen scene from my birthday. The lights, the cupcakes, my mom typing lies. Ethan smirking like he had won something. For years, I had replayed moments like that, trying to fix them in my head, trying to find the version where I said the right thing and they finally saw me. Now the replay felt different. I was not trying to fix it. I was letting it be what it was. News from Seattle came in pieces through cousins and whispers. My parents downsized, sold things they used to show off. Family gatherings felt tense. Some relatives quietly asked me what really happened. I told the truth without drama. Some believed me, some did not. I learned that being believed by everyone was not the goal. Being honest with myself was. Ethan posted less online. When he did, it was vague and bitter. Quotes about loyalty, about snakes. I recognized the pattern. Perform pain. Blame others. Avoid looking inward. That used to scare me. Now it just felt distant. I stopped checking. His story no longer explained mine. One afternoon, Lisa found me writing at the table and asked what it was. I told her it was a scholarship essay. She asked what I wrote about. I said I wrote about choosing myself without burning everything down. She smiled and said, "Sometimes choosing yourself is the fire that reveals what was already rotten." I thought about that for a long time. I realized revenge did not look like yelling or proving them wrong. It looked like absence. It looked like their systems failing without my quiet labor. It looked like me building a life that did not need their permission. The karma Ethan never saw coming was not punishment. It was accountability arriving without me chasing it. Still, there was one thing left unfinished. One last line I needed drawn, not for them, for me, and it was coming sooner than I expected. The last line got drawn on a random afternoon when I ran into an old neighbor at the grocery store. She recognized me right away and asked if I was back home for good. I said no, I live in Portland now. She smiled awkwardly and said things had been hard for my parents. She said Ethan was under so much stress, and my mom talked about me like I had vanished, like I disappeared without reason. I felt that old reflex rise up, the urge to explain, to soften, to protect them. Then I stopped. I said I did not vanish. I left. There is a difference. That night I told Lisa what happened. She nodded and said people rewrite stories when the truth makes them uncomfortable. She said I do not owe anyone my silence anymore. That settled something in me. I realized the final boundary was not blocking numbers or moving states. It was refusing to carry their version of events inside my head. A few days later, an email slipped through from my dad. He wrote like nothing had burned. He said he hoped I was doing well. He said maybe one day we could talk when things calmed down. No apology, no accountability, just an invitation back into the same fog. I stared at it for a long time. I thought about answering, about asking for something different. Then I asked myself one question. If nothing changed, would I go back? The answer was no. I did not reply. Instead, I closed my laptop and went for a walk. The air was cold and clean. I passed strangers who did not know my history. I realized that was the point. I was not running anymore. I was choosing where to stand. Weeks later, I heard through a cousin that my parents were telling people I was influenced, that I was dramatic, that I chose outsiders over family. It used to hurt imagining that. Now it just sounded like proof. When people lose control, they call it betrayal. When they lose access, they call it manipulation. Jake asked once if I missed them. I said I missed the idea of parents who would have protected me. I did not miss being unseen. He held my hand and did not rush me to forgive or forget. He let the truth sit where it belonged. The revenge was never loud, it was quiet and steady. It was me waking up without dread. It was my future expanding while theirs stayed stuck in the same old pattern. It was knowing that when my birthday comes now, it will never be cancelled to manage someone else. And somewhere back in Seattle, the family that revolved around one person had to learn how gravity works when the one who kept everything balanced finally steps away. Time passed in a way I was not used to. Not in crisis bursts, but in steady days that stacked into something real. School started and I walked across campus without shrinking. No one knew me as the easy one, or the strong one, or the one who would understand. I was just Nora, a girl with a backpack and plans. That alone felt like a victory. One evening, Lisa sat across from me at the table and asked if I was okay. Not in the checking for damage way, in the genuine way. I told her yes and meant it. I told her sometimes I still felt anger, and sometimes relief, and sometimes nothing at all. She said healing is not about feeling one thing forever. It is about having space to feel all of it without being punished. That stuck with me. I stopped expecting closure from my parents. I stopped waiting for a message that would suddenly make everything make sense. I understood that some people only feel regret when there are consequences they cannot avoid, and even then, they might call it something else. I did not need them to name the harm for it to be real. A cousin eventually messaged me quietly. She said the house felt different now, quieter, heavier. She said my parents argued more, and Ethan blamed everyone but himself. She said sometimes my mom stared at my old room, like she was trying to remember when things went wrong. I read it without satisfaction and without guilt. Their realization was not my responsibility. On my walk home that night, I thought about revenge, and how stories like mine usually end. People expect a final confrontation or a speech or tears. What they do not expect is distance. What they do not expect is the person who was always there choosing not to return. That absence changes things in ways yelling never could. I realized my revenge was not ruining their lives. It was refusing to ruin mine to save theirs. It was choosing a future where my worth was not debated or postponed or traded for peace. It was letting the family story continue without me, and watching it struggle to stay upright. I slept well that night, deep and undisturbed. No dreams of kitchens or cupcakes or slammed doors, just rest. And in the morning I woke up knowing the final chapter was already written, even if I never said another word to them again. The real ending did not arrive with news or drama. It arrived quietly on a morning that looked like any other. I was getting ready for class when I caught my reflection in the mirror and realized something important. I was not bracing myself. I was not waiting for a message to ruin my day. My body had finally learned that the danger was over. Later that week, I found the old camera I packed on the night I left. I charged it and walked through the city taking pictures of ordinary things. Coffee cups on windowsills, light through trees, people laughing without checking who might be upset about it. When I looked at the photos, I saw proof that my life was no longer lived in reaction. It was mine. Lisa asked me once if I ever thought about reconciliation. I told her I was open to accountability, not to repetition. I said if they ever came to me without excuses, without Ethan at the center, without asking me to be strong for them again, then maybe we could talk. She nodded and said that was not bitterness. That was boundaries. I understood then that boundaries were the thing my family never survived. Not because they were cruel, but because they were honest. Boundaries forced truth. And truth was the one thing they had always avoided by putting everything on me. The revenge was complete, not because they struggled, but because I no longer needed to watch. I no longer checked. I no longer wondered if I mattered. The question that haunted my childhood finally lost its power. I mattered, even when I was not useful, even when I was not quiet, even when I walked away. And somewhere deep down, I knew this was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of a life that did not ask permission to exist. I used to think revenge meant winning an argument or watching someone regret what they did. I know better now. Revenge was shit. Oozing myself when everyone expected me to stay small. It was walking away without screaming and letting the truth speak through silence. My birthday was cancelled that night, but my life was not. It started the moment I stopped accepting a role where my pain was optional and someone else's comfort was the rule. I did not destroy my family. I stopped disappearing for it. And in doing that, I finally learned what peace feels like. If this story hit something inside, you remember this. You are not selfish for wanting to matter. You are not dramatic for walking away from people who only love you when you are quiet. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop begging for a place at a table that was never built for you. You deserve a life where your joy is not negotiable and your worth is not voted on. If you felt this story, leave a like so it reaches someone who needs it. Subscribe to Echoes of Revenge for more real stories about choosing yourself. Share this with someone who is still standing in that kitchen wondering if they are allowed to walk out. And tell me this in the comments. If you were in my place, would you have stayed and kept trying? Or would you have walked away and chosen yourself too?